Hey everybody, this is Perch. If you are interested in the Eisner Awards, well, today is your lucky day because the nominations were revealed this year for the nominees for the Eisner. And, as a bit of commentary, I think that the Eisners are they're an interesting thing. I mean, comic awards, just like movie awards and music awards and everything else, are interesting because they usually don't reflect sales, which is not inherently their purpose. Their purpose is, the logic goes, the sales are their own reward, that the comics that are selling well are designed for kind of the mass market, and so they're usually critically weaker products. I don't think that's actually true, and I think a number of creators would balk at that description, especially ones that are writing big events. Like, is Brian Michael Bendis, for example, when he was making all these big events at Marvel, was he comfortable with the idea of somebody saying, well, your work isn't very good, it's kind of mass-produced junk, so it's not really worth an award? I don't know that he would view it that way. I don't know any comic creator would view it that way. But regardless, the Eisners are coming up, and we have our candidates here. We have our nominations, so we'll see what is ultimately going to win. It might not surprise you that there's very little Marvel on here, and no, this is not because the Eisners are frustrated with what Marvel does. It's that typically these are very heavily weighted toward independent comics, indie companies, and a lot from Image, a lot from other groups like that. But let's get into kind of what's there. So in terms of the best single issue, the nominations are The Burning Hotels by Birdcage Bottom Books, Hedra by Image, The Other History of the DC Universe #1, the John Ridley comic from DC, Sports is Hell by Koyama Press, and Stanley's Ghost: A Halloween Adventure by Storm Kids. I'm willing to bet that the person listening, has probably only heard of a couple of those, but anyway, those are the best single issue nominations. The best ongoing continuing series, although that is that's got to be said with air quotes these days, right? I got to think. Anyway, Bitter Root by David Walker over at Image. Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. It's a favorite of a lot of people I know who listen to his channel. The Department of Truth by James Tynion. Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire, over at both those books over at Image. Stillwater by Chip Zdarsky over at Image. And Usagi Yojimbo over at IDW. So a couple Image books, four Image books, sorry. One Marvel, one IDW. Continuing series is always a sketchy kind of piece. I'm betting that they're going to give it to Department of Truth. Personally, that would be my bet here. Possibly Bitterroot. That's where I think that's going to go. But best limited series, which technically that's all of them these days as well. We have our Barbalian, Red Planet by Jeff Lemire. We have Decorum by Jonathan Hickman over at Image. We have Far Sector at DC. Strange Adventures by Tom King over at DC. Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen by Matt Fraction, which really doesn't feel like a limited series that qualifies for last year, but I guess it does kind of technically. And then We Live by Aftershock. From my perspective, We Live is by far the best of this list. I like Decorum as well, but man, We Live is great. Best new series, we have Black Widow by Kelly Thompson over at Marvel. We have Crossover by Donny Cates at Image. The Department of Truth by James Tynion at Image. Philadelphia by Rodney Barnes at Image. And We Only Find Them When They're Dead by Al Ewing at Boom. This feels like it's going to go, again, I would say Philadelphia, Department of Truth have to be considered kind of the front runners there, but we will see. So then we have a handful of others. We have best anthology. There's a lot of anthologies out right now. We have X Mag over at Pow. And we have Guantanamo Voices by Abrams. We have Hey Amateur, Go From Novice to Nailing It in 9 Panels by IDW. We have Los Angeles Times by, I guess, the Los Angeles Times. Menopause, Comic Treatment by Graphic Medicine, and Now by Fantagraphics. We have the best. We have a handful. So here's an interesting one. There's a number of. I'm not going to go through them all. You can certainly get the list over on the Eisner list. But the best U.S. edition of international material. This is an interesting one. because it's and you have best U.S. edition by international material, and then you have a category for Asia. So these books are Altitude, Guamin Tales, Goblin Girl, When You Look Up, and The Winter of the Cartoonist. Many of those are European in where they're coming from. And then in terms of Asia, I Had That Same Dream Again, I Wish I Could Say Thank You, A Journal of My Father, Ping Pong, Rimina, and Spy X Family. Spy X Family is a very solid book distributed by Viz. A lot of these, again, you might be thinking, where is Demon Slayer, the book that sold so much? It's certainly not on here. Best Writer in terms of the creators. So we have Ed Brubaker, who was nominated for Pulp and Reckless. Matt Fraction, who was nominated for Sex Criminals and Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Jonathan Hickman for Decorum and X-Men. They list Decorum first. Just a little poke there. Jeff Lemire for Barbalayan, Black Hammer, a couple others. The Question, certainly. James Tinian for Something Is Killing the Children, Batman, Department of Truth, and then Chip Zdarsky for Stillwater and Daredevil. This one, again, there's been some noise. I mean, it's unlikely it goes to Ed Brubaker. There's an outside chance. This feels like, this feels like the James Tinian night in a lot of ways is kind of how I would call this, but that's where that goes. Best Writer-Artist Team. We have Junji Ito, Rimina. We have Pascal Jocelyn, Mr. Invincible, Trun Lin Young, The Magic Fish, Craig Thompson, Ginseng Roots, Adrian Tomini, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Cartoonist. That was pretty much all cartoonists last year. Jean Lun Yang for Dragon Hoops in terms of the writer-artist team. And then we got a penciler inker. So here, again, an interesting list. We have Michael Allred. Okay, can't ever argue with Michael Allred. Marco Cicchetto for Daredevil, Jorge Corona for Middle West, Bertrand Gattengol for Pistovi, Mitch Gerards and Evan Doc Shaner for Strange Adventures, Stanford Green, Bitterroot. Feels like, by the way, the Eisners were really behind Strange Adventures in ways that a lot of the people reading the comic were not. Best Cover Artist. So who's the best cover artist? Lots of variant covers there. We got Jamal Campbell, Power Rangers, Far Sector. We have Simone DeMio from We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Mike Huddleston for Decorum. Dave Johnson for Butcher of Paris. That's a really nice looking book. Peach Momoko for like everything. And then Ramon Perez for Stillwater. Again, a lot of it's interesting to watch the comic companies sink a lot of money into J. Scott Campbell and Alex Ross as kind of big cover artists. They don't show up on these lists. Anyway, best coloring, Laura Allred. It'd be nice if Mike and Laura won. Jean Francis Biotu, Middle West. GP, One Story. Marte Garcia for Empire. Marte Garcia just kills it. So this is an award where I think Marvel takes one home. They often give at least something to Marvel, and I do think that Chip Zdarsky and Daredevil are going to get beat out by other things, but Marte Garcia it seems like the lock here. But Matt Wilson, who did Undiscovered Country, Firepower, Thor, and Dave Stewart, who did Gideon Falls, Spider-Man, Black Hammer. With best lettering, again, Mike Allred is up there on that list. Daron Bennett is on this list. Ajia Bidikar. We have Clayton Cowles. Always a safe bet to put Clayton on there. Stan Sakai, Russ Wontoon. Okay, and then the last, a couple others. There's a handful of other things. There's stuff for kids. There's stuff for publication design, digital comic. Friday, Ed Brubaker is on there. Gentle Mind, Promethi, Olive, and Soon. Okay, webcomic, BFF. Crisis Zone, DPS, Isle of Elsie, The Kiss Bet, The Middle Age. Cool. Like how my voice is getting slowly more smoky here as we go. The last one to kind of look at, best comics related journalism periodical. This list is empty because they also, no, I'm just kidding. We've got Alter Ego, which is edited by Roy Thomas, Back Issue, which is good, The Comics Blog, The Comics Journal, Panel by Panel magazine, which is that's a really solid one, and then Women Write About Comics. are the categories. So there's a few others, but this is the Eisner this year. It's you could have kind of predicted this. I actually meant to do a prediction of what was coming. I knew that Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen would get on there, Decorum would get on there, Department of Truth. We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Daredevil was going to be the Marvel book that they were going to kind of push up. The disappointments on here, We Live is on here for one brief mention, but that was excellent. So that deserved certainly a lot more, I would say, than's on here. And I think this kind of misses this continues my general feeling that the Eisners really miss what's going on internationally and never seem to really kind of have their finger on that pulse. It's a very kind of old-fashioned way of looking at things. A handful of other comics out there. I mean, there were some really good comics out here. This is definitely kind of an Eisner category. But my question to you, number one, do you care about the Eisners? Is this something that you pay attention to and listen and learn? Do comics need awards? Is this something that's kind of an old-fashioned idea, or does it still have some relevance? Let me know that in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.